SNAICC advises Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that the following episode of Kids, Culture, Community, SNAICC Yarns contains references to topics that may be triggering to the community. Your social and emotional safety is important. If this recording has brought up any concerns for you, please contact 13Yarn on 139276. G'day and welcome to episode 2 of SNAICC's amazing podcast, Kids, Culture, Community, SNAICC Yarns. This is a very special episode. It's our deadly workforce, and we have a special guest with us, Miranda Edwards. Thanks so much for joining us, Miranda.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just so lovely to have you here today, and I've already heard from so many people that are really excited to hear you on this podcast to talk all about the amazing workforce and the incredible work they do. My name is Michael Lynch, so I've just got the call up for this one from the great Mandy Taylor, the Director of Communications, and Mandy's just sent us a text, Miranda, can I just say, and it says, Michael, don't stuff this up. So it's very nice of Mandy to send that one through.
Yeah,
so
pressure's on.
I'll tell you what, we're feeling the heat already here, but no, it's very exciting. I thought I'd kick off by acknowledging the beautiful country we're on today, and we're on beautiful Wurundjeri Country, and it is so lovely today. And I just wanted to pay my respect to Aboriginal elders, past and present, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that are tuning in and in the room recording today. So it's so exciting. So I just wanted to kick off, Miranda,
Thank you.
with a bit about your story and your background. And I thought, what a way to start, because you shared a lovely story with the SNAICC team, I reckon a week and a half ago, about Dreamtime at the G.
Yep.
What a night it was, and your family's involvement there. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, thanks, Michael. The Dreamtime at the G, what a wonderful event. I think they've celebrated 21 years this year. So, and my involvement was, my son, Clinton Edwards, he's 17, he goes to Melbourne Grammar, was asked to perform at the G. It's his second time actually, so pretty proud to be asked again. And he performed a traditional dance on the MCG before the game starts. So, I get so obviously the second time him performing, but this time it was pretty special because my uncle, Stephen Michael, was the honoree for the Dreamtime. So each year, I think for the last 10 years, they've asked someone to come out and promote the Dreamtime on the G, but also recognise their football career or something they've achieved in AFL. And so my uncle, Stephen Michael, his dad and my nan are brother and sister. So very close family member, grew up in Collie, which he lives in Collie. He, looks after my grandfather currently now, so really close. And for him to be recognised and him coming over to Melbourne, I was just, oh, wow, I can't wait to see him and celebrate this time with him at the G. So during the week, we were invited to Richmond Football Club for a breakfast where they recognised him there and the work that he's done. He played footy with Maurice Rioli, so there was a really special event around Maurice Rioli and even Maurice Rioli Jr. coming and meeting my Uncle Stephen. So we were a part of that, and so to witness that that night was a pretty special event.
Oh, that's just so phenomenal, and I think there'll be a lot of people tuning into this from WA and across the country that would remember Stephen playing one of the all-time great footy players. I think WA Hall of Famer, AFL Hall of Famer. That's just it's so exciting.
No, amazing uncle, very humble about his football career and, the story behind him not coming over to Victoria. I really, when he was telling that story throughout the week of the Dreamtime to the G, shared that he didn't want to leave his mum and dad, and the closeness that our Michael family have, I understood that fully. That he, it would have been really hard for his family to come over here, and just the connection that we all share back home and the closeness. So I understood that.
Miranda, that's just a phenomenal story. You've also had such a decorated career. It's taken you right around the world, and I know a role that you're so passionate about was your time spent running Lulla's Children and Family Centre on beautiful Yorta and Bangerang country. Could you tell us a little bit about that and a little bit about your story?
So I suppose my journey started back in Western Australia. I was a secondary teacher, and so was teaching in schools, and I had a 3-day-a-week teaching role. But then the school said, "You're so passionate with the Aboriginal students. Would you become our Aboriginal liaison officer for the school?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." So, always. And I reflect back on my grandparents sitting in meetings with them. They were. Mainly, I was jumping in the car because I was getting a shopping trip after their meetings. But my nan and pop were amazing advocates for children attending school, whether it be early years to secondary, but school was really important. So I reflect back now, me sitting in their meetings, listening to the advocacy role that they played, that I knew that I wanted to make a difference in this space, around education. So I became a secondary teacher.
Wow.
I met my amazing husband, Bangerang man Clinton from Shepparton, and we were in Perth when we met, and he said, "I want to go home to Shepparton," and I said, "Oh, okay, I don't know, it's cold." That was the only reason. It was freezing over here, leaving beautiful Perth, and so we made the trek across the Nullarbor, and I remember saying to my family, "I'm only going to go for 6 months, and I'll be back." Well, 25 years later,
wow.
I'm still over here in Victoria, and yeah, I can't see myself leaving beautiful Victoria. But my role played out that I became a teacher in Shepparton, taught secondary English and religion at one of the schools there, and really enjoyed it. And then I had my second child, Clinton Jr., and my husband said, "You've got to send him to Lidji Max, an Aboriginal childcare centre." I went there as a kid. All the aunties, all the nans, they're all there. And I went, "Yeah, no problem. I love this." I'd never heard anything about it. So, dropping Clinton off, spoiled straight away. As soon as you open the door, it's, they grab him, they love him up, that he never ever wanted to come home. And I'm like, "Oh, come on." And so I just knew from the minute I enrolled Clinton Jr. into Lidji Max that this was a culturally safe place for my son, and just listening to the stories of my husband and him growing up, and aunties and nans, and his mum was even a teacher there, that I was like, yeah, no problem at all. So, that was a couple of years of doing that. And I remember coming in, and one of the old aunties said, "What do you do? "Oh, can I get to know you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a teacher at, would you ever work in early childhood?" And I went, "No, you guys do amazing. I love leaving my son and then going out the door." And then this particular day, maybe 6 months after that conversation, I must have looked stressed. She said, "Do you want a cuppa?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." So I sat down and yarned, and she said, "Look, we're thinking of changing. We're thinking of the community would really like to bring Lidji Max and Butcher Preschool, which was two amazing run centres for 20 plus years." In Aboriginal early childhood education, wanted to amalgamate the two centres to bring them together, to have a place where you could drop off your child and it's just in the same venue. So because one was in Mooroopna and one was in Shepparton, it was about bringing it together for this multi-purpose building. And I'm there loving it, my son's going to go from, 2-year-old room to preschool, and he's going to just have that beautiful space to be in. And if I have any more children, this is going to be a beautiful space. Then the next question, "Would you come here and help us bring it all together?" And I went, "But I have a job." She said, "Yeah, but you'd be amazing at bringing it all together." And she said, "Well, look, how about we start with a 3-month contract?" And I thought, "Oh, all right." So I went home, spoke to my husband. He said, "Yeah, why not?" So I took 3 months off from teaching to be, at the time, it wasn't Lulla's, because we were bringing the two centres together.
Yeah.
And my job was to amalgamate the two organisations, 2 boards, lots of staff, to the centre. And it was just like paperwork, dealing with the government, dealing with everything like that. So I really loved it. And then my contract was up, and the board went, "Would you like to run Lulla's Children and Family Centre?" So I was part of the launching of Lulla's, bringing it together. The reason behind calling it Lulla's was, sitting with all the old aunties and uncles, and they wanted to name it after Geraldine Atkinson's mother, Esmeralda Bamblett, where she had 14 children, and her mum her mum said education is the key to getting out of poverty. And so they really wanted to recognise their mother. And I went, what a beautiful name, Lulla. They called her nickname was Lulla, to recognise her and her children, which her children have gone on to run amazing organisations here in Victoria. And I was going to be managing that. So I went, hang on, I don't have any expertise in early childhood, but I have a passion. So, so that's how that journey came to me running Lulla's 15 years later. So beautiful memory that I'll treasure, because I think it's given me so many opportunities, like you said, going overseas to talk, to working here now at SNAICC. So, I'll treasure that forever.
That's just such a phenomenal story. On 2 points, because I think, first of all, the move to Shep, just a couple of months.
Yeah.
Then, the early days helping out, before Lulla's had formed, it's just a 3-month. Here we are.
Yeah.
Still in Vic, and it's still freezing as well, by the way.
Yes. But I do laugh at family members that come over from Perth, especially my sister from Karratha.
Yeah.
They go straight to the DFOs and buy Kathmandus, but they leave them at my door because they're like, we don't need these in Karratha. So it's funny watching the family come over. I'm used to it.
So you're well stocked with the Kathmandus.
Yeah,
if anyone wants a Kathmandu that's listening, Miranda Edwards. No, that's fantastic. Well, that is phenomenal, and I think one of the big things we'd love to chat about today, just the efforts of the workforce out there, just delivering services in an environment where 65,000 plus years of Aboriginal culture is celebrated, and the impact that Aboriginal culture and knowledge has on little ones. I mean, over your years of being involved, how have you found it, and what impact have you seen? Have you seen culture have on little ones, and even, I guess, on your own family and
Yeah, no, thank you. Throughout my time at Lulla's Children and Family Centre, we went through lots of challenges, from staffing, funding, the childcare subsidy changes, COVID, but some amazing, great opportunities. I think when I reflect back on the work that I did with the team and the community, community relationship building, successful events, children graduating, biggest event at the end of the year, where 25 children are rocking up in a kangaroo skin graduation gown and their little outfits, and feeling as proud as anything to go off to school. But the biggest achievement too is the school feeding back information saying your children are ready, and we're like, isn't that what every child should feel like, that they should be school ready? So that's definitely something from birth that all Aboriginal communities or Aboriginal childcare centres focus on, that we're getting our children school ready. We want them to be top of the class when they walk in. We want them to feel culturally safe. And so, that's definitely something that I'm, that work in the 15 years really opened my eyes up. So, so my time at Lulla's, I was always building relationships with community members, organisations, talking about the importance of Aboriginal early childhood education and making a difference. I also worked with every kindergarten in Shepparton or in the region, because not everyone could come to Lulla's. We were a licensed centre, and so we had waiting lists, and I didn't want anyone sitting on any waiting list. So I'd work with everyone around. I'd work with community, and the importance of that was how to every kindergarten, if an Aboriginal child walked into your centre, how are they been made to feel? Do they feel culturally safe when they walk in the door? What are you doing in your classroom settings and all that stuff? So that was really important, because sometimes families were like, well, I live across the road from a kindergarten, I'm just going to send my little fella there because it's convenient. And I'd go, yeah, that's great, because we just want them to attending some kind of, we'd love to have them to come to Lulla's, but again, if there was a waiting list, we wanted them just to be attending some educational space, but ensuring that they were culturally safe as well was a key thing. So working with all the kindergartens was something really important that I felt, building them relationships up so that any cultural awareness throughout the education sector, that they knew that they were comfortable to come and ask me for any advice. So that was really important.
Miranda, that's just phenomenal. And I've got to say, I just want to pick up on something there. You mentioned COVID. So being at Lulla's and leading the way during COVID, that was a really complicated time. How did you go about that, and how did you work through all the barriers and all the challenges that COVID threw up?
Yeah, no, thanks. What a time for the world, and especially here in Victoria. Like I think about them times where we were impacted, whether it be funding or personally, or just the restrictions that were put on us. I remember hearing the misinformation around COVID, and the fear factor that went into our Aboriginal communities, that if it had gone into an Aboriginal community, it could wipe us out. And imagine hearing that, and I remember hearing and our staff being so concerned. And the other impact of that is that we were told that we had to work through it, and my staff was so scared. They were like, what happens if I decide not to? And I was like, well, then you don't have a job. Like, it was just the misinformation. Like, it was a fear factor that went throughout all our communities. I know I would regularly speak to all the other ACCO centres, and we all shared the same thing. We just day to day worried about our families, worried about our kids. When there were times where we had to shut the doors. How are these kids? How are they? So it was a constant fear every day. And I then reflected on a situation before COVID hit. Was the childcare subsidy system really affected Lulla's Children and Family Centre, because, we were thriving. We had lots of children coming. We charged really low fees, which is what the concept and the vision of why our multifunctional Aboriginal services were put in place. These aunties wanted somewhere where our children could go, where they didn't have to pay a fortune to go to childcare, because the benefits outweigh the cultural environments, somewhere culturally safe for these children to attend, and so on. And so the government funded these centres, and they were called budget-based funding, where you were given an amount of money and you kind of just had to work with that amount, or be innovative and creative with that funding. And then the childcare subsidy hit, and where it then said each family or each situation of family circumstances had to apply. And we then started working through some circumstances, and our families were really like, why the change? Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to be involved with Centrelink and so on? And so it was really challenging, and some of our families went from being 5 days a week down to 2 days a week because of that's all they could afford. So, for 2 days, their eligibility with the childcare subsidy, they would get low fees, and then if they wanted an extra day, it ended up being like $100 a day, and who can afford that? Like, And so I went from having a fully placed centre, so 72 children a day, fully staffed, extra staff, down to 10 kids, leading in that childcare subsidy period. And I remember advocating to SNAICC, government, and going, we're going to have to shut our doors. We can't afford to keep the doors open. The reality is, I don't know what to do. And it was not a nice feeling, because the Aboriginal staff are from that area, are the backbone of that community. And I was like, how do you go and tell them they don't have a job anymore, including myself? What do we do? Then COVID hit. And I say this, that I'm probably the only one in the world that thanked COVID for coming, because the government then gave free childcare. With free childcare became some funding. And the funding then allowed me to keep staff on board, but it also allowed me to work through each family's circumstances and work through each of their financial situations, to Centrelink, to eligibility process and everything. So also with the free childcare, I went out through a pandemic, knocked on the children's doors of all the families that had been disengaged through the childcare subsidy and said, come back, it's free. So we ended up being like 10 kids to 100 kids in that pandemic period. Wow. Yes, there was, times where children couldn't attend because it was, high cases of COVID cases, but we decided that no, their learning still can continue. So we did home education packs. We did 3 nights a week, cooked meals. We dropped toys off. We dropped, like care packages where we had hand sanitizer, toilet paper. I was able to source this company that dropped off. It was quite funny actually, but dropped off, I think 500 packs of toilet paper. That for about 12 months we had toilet paper, everywhere. But when families couldn't get toilet paper. I was like, what am I going to do? What we need? Like the essentials, cleaning products, because, again, the fear that went into some of our communities and families were like, if I don't clean this, I'm going to catch COVID and so on. So we wanted to ensure and educate our community that they were going to be okay during COVID and that we were there for them. And so I reflect back on that time, that, that money, that funding for free childcare and the importance, because it got all our children back in the door, able to work through each family's circumstances. It just was amazing. And the staffing, the morale all came back even through a pandemic because it was job safety. They were able to feel like, yep, we're okay. The organisation, we're okay. We've got funding that can last us. So, yeah, as much as it was like a hard time for the whole state, I really reflect on that. When you're funded properly, great things can happen.
Yeah, and that's phenomenal. And you've just touched on something there around, I guess, the challenges, because we've moved a few years past COVID, but a lot of those challenges are still very much there, aren't they, in terms of retaining staff in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander services. Yeah. Is this something within your current role that you're still hearing about on the ground, some of those challenges and barriers?
Yeah, definitely. So Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander early years services consistently identify workforce attraction, retention and qualification development as major challenges, in particular regional and remote services. So definitely in my role here at SNAICC and when I was working, that you've got to have a love for this job. The wage, we know the advocacy work that we've played a big part in ensuring the wage increase is that the sector deserves, is something that's been advocating for 20 plus years, that the early childhood education needs to be paid appropriately for the work that they do. But then I look at the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander educators and they bring so much more richness, knowledge, culture, that's not, there's no certificate for that. No. But that's what they bring. And, when I look and reflect back on the time that I was at Lulla's and now in this space, that, the nurturing, there's so much power and the involvement that an old nan that's worked for 25 years in this space, you ask her the question and you say, why do you work? And she goes, I love my community. I want to be here. I love this. So there's so much love that why an Aboriginal person wants to work in this space, like that I think we need to be paying them properly. We need to be acknowledging them in a space of recognised prior learning in our TAFE sector or our RTOs. That how do we do that? And I think that's been one of the key questions that in the role that I play in now is we've got to make our pathways for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in this space a lot better, so that our educators feel acknowledged for the work that they do, because it doesn't end 9 to 5. In the Aboriginal space where you're working 24 hours, weekends. Family members see you outside in community events, and they want to ask you questions and they want to catch up with you because that's the only time that they can. And so you're constantly on the go when you're in this space. So yeah, it's not a 9 to 5 job when you're working in ACOs. It's all, and because you love it, you want to do it and you want to be in that space.
Yeah, spot on. And yeah, I just love hearing you speak. The passion there and the advocacy, and just so spot on the money. There's been quite a lot of work, to say the least, happening in your space and within your role as SNAICC's National Workforce Advisor, particularly around the SNAICC worker retention payment grant. So could you tell us a little bit about everything that's going on, and I guess how SNAICC is supporting Aboriginal-led services to improve workforce retention, which is what you've been talking about with so much passion, and any particular initiatives that are in place at the moment?
Yeah, yep. So the government announced the workforce retention grant December 6th last year, and before that, all the early years peaks came together. It was like a summit crisis meeting, we called it, where when I reflect back on that was amazing in itself, that every single early years organisational peak said enough's enough. We need to get the government on board to have pay our educators, right? Because we know that there's a crisis. We know educators are walking. We know that educators are wanting to, go to higher paying jobs because it's the cost of living at the moment. So as much as they love their job, it's, the reality is that we need either to pay them properly or they're going to other jobs. So one of the things that I really felt was great, government are finally listening. So they announced the December 6th retention grant, which was a 15% increase over 2 years. And so one of the things that's come with that retention grant is that they want the sector to sign an IFA or an MEA, so enterprise bargaining agreement. So, SNAICC kind of advocated with, well, we're going to need to really support our sector with understanding what this looks like. The administration burden. I mean, they're busy as it is. And so I was like, no, SNAICC's going to have to really take on this role for our sector because it's important. And I don't want any centre to feel like this is just too much. So part of the role and my team have played is visiting centres, talking through the application process, the eligibility process and, all that stuff. So it's been really, really great. We've had so many services reach out for advice. I've travelled across Australia talking to many educators about the process and just reassuring them, because I think when this all started, just like anything, change, misinformation, misunderstanding, once we've sat down and yarned with them, they've gone, oh, okay, this is okay then, I can do this, and it's actually a great thing. So that's been really great to support the sector in that, because once we've got through that, we've held a couple of webinars which have been really great. The communications from SNAICC that's been going out, a lot of the services have picked that up and gone, right, I'm on board now, and I want to apply, because before we started really, informing the sector, they were a little bit uncertain about what this meant for them, and I've then reassured them that it'll be a great thing. We've talked to boards, we've talked to health organisations, because some of our services are run out of I'm just thinking like a health org, and then they're an agency from that health org. So we've had to do a lot of work of educating everyone. So look, I'd like to see a lot more centres sign up. We've got the June 30th date, which is eligibility around the back pay. So you'll still, if you apply before June 30th, you will have an opportunity to receive funds that are backdated from the December 6th date. And so a bit extra more money in the pockets of our educators, which they deserve. They deserve this. So in the next few weeks, we'll be really, really pushing for our sector, the ones that haven't applied or, maybe haven't picked it up yet, and just getting out there and letting them know that this is really important.
That's phenomenal, and you've touched on it there from you and your teams kind of travel across the continent, across the whole country. You've been all. You need your own helicopter, Miranda. What is going on?
I wish. Would SNAICC fund that?
We'll work on that, Catherine. So. I guess from those travels, what sort of success stories have you had? Because I've heard there've been quite a lot of. It sounds like a lot of services getting on board.
Yeah, look. So talking about travel, there was one day there I was 3 flights and a 3-hour drive in the beautiful top end of WA in Kununurra. And if I never ever get up there, I'm so grateful that within this position I was able to travel there, because I just couldn't get over how beautiful that part of the world is. Successes are like sitting with really remote communities and the directors and seeing the beautiful work that they do day to day, and then just reassuring them that this process is going to be okay, that it's not going to put the centre in any deficit. It's funding you for the work that you do, and this little bit extra hopefully continues so that we can just, encourage more Aboriginal people to work in this space. So I think that's been my highlight, that once I've sat down with the directors to reassure them that, that this will be okay. And a lot of the time the directors are like, I just needed that from you and SNAICC. I just needed that okay, that we're going to be okay, because we do. And I've been in that position where you sit in a director role where you are, trying to find money here, there and everywhere. And you don't want to apply for something that, could put the centre at risk. So when you sit down and talk to them about that, and you also reassure them that SNAICC's going to continue to advocate for this to be ongoing, that's been my ongoing conversation, because there is that fear. They said, what happens after the 2 years? And I said, at the moment, I don't. I'm very honest. I don't know, but I will continue, and SNAICC will continue to advocate on your behalf that this is really important for it to be ongoing. And so they're like, great, thank you. We know that you do that.
Yeah, see, that's outstanding. And I guess one of the great things about something like this chat and a podcast is we can kind of unpack some questions that people might have in a bit more depth than an email or something like that. And so I know one of the questions that people have had, and you've already talked about the deadline. There's the 2 deadlines, isn't there? So there's the initial deadline, which is the end of this month.
Yeah.
But there's another deadline, September 30, 2026. Yeah. But for anyone that's a bit confused about the 2 deadlines, this deadline, this end of month, is the better one to hit, isn't it? Because of that back pay.
Yeah, yep. And look, the whole process is an opt-in process. So I just want to, get the listeners to know that as much as we encourage all of this, because we know that it will help the sector, you have the option to opt in or opt out. So you also have the option to opt in for the back pay that process as well. So yes, you are correct. June 30th is the cutoff date for the back pay, so getting the money from December 6th last year. And so we are encouraging, because, it would be really great to get, some extra dollars in your bank before the end of financial year. And so we're really encouraging that. And so, like I said, rightly, deservedly, you deserve this money. The September 26th date, 2026 date is the actual workforce retention grant. So that date is being put in place because it was only a 2-year funding opportunity. And so we want to encourage all the sector, whether they opt in before June 30th or after June 30th, that they have till that date to pay their way, to pay the increase. So, so we're willing to work with everyone about all the dates that have been put up on all the websites, the government websites, our website. But we are heavily encouraging our services to put in for the back pay, because we think that they deserve to be paid from December 6th last year.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. So I suppose to tie up that the ECEC chat and the grant, what would be your final message for any services that are listening and they're still kind of sitting on the fence a little bit? What would your message be?
Yeah, look, my message would be, if you're unsure, please reach out to SNAICC and myself. We will support you all the way to get this done. Even face-to-face visits in the next 3 weeks, I'm willing to do that. I've got a great team behind me that online, phone calls, emails. We want to ensure you that the process is not as burdensome that it may feel, that the process is quite easy, but we want to work through each section of the eligibility process to ensure that your staff get the well-deserved increase.
That's amazing, Miranda. It's just been so lovely to speak to you today. Before we wrap things up, do you have a final message to the deadly workforce? This is the deadly workforce episode of SNAICC Yarns. Do you have any shout outs or a special message to everyone out there who are just doing amazing work?
Yeah, look, I like I said earlier in the podcast, that you have to have a love for this job, in this space, Aboriginal early years. Or education, you have to have a love for it and a passion for it. So, if your heart's in the right place, you will see amazing outcomes. And like I said, that seeing kids graduate and going off to school and feeling as proud as anything and feeling culturally safe is, a beautiful outcome to Aboriginal early childhood education. Even seeing them graduate from year 12, you're like, yeah. And, I still see community members that I went to an 18th recently where the bouncer actually said to me, "You probably know who's 18 and who isn't in here," because I would have looked after them at Lulla's, and so but seeing that that what they've achieved in their life because they remember you from when you were at Lulla's, whether it be the cuddle or just sitting with them and stuff like that, so, and give all that beautiful memories that I think. You've got to have a love for this job and a love for your community because you are the backbone.
That's just phenomenal. Thank you so much, Miranda Edwards, SNAICC National Workforce Advisor. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. It's just been amazing.
Thank you. Loved it.